So this is another sutta, and this is about the famous monk Sona, and his story is kind of interesting, and it's also interesting because now we are talking about the one who is sorrowless, stainless. Remember the words that we just looked at before, and he is one of these people who becomes an arahant, and then he declares his arahantship to the Buddha, and we shall see how that happens, and it's kind of inspiring and nice. So soon after his ordination, while staying in Cool Grove, Venerable Sona practiced walking meditation with so much energy that his feet cracked. That was what happened the other day when I was walking with these other monks. We were feet cracked, because of too much energy. I apologize. It's my fault. I was not sensitive enough to my fellow monks, so I was my bad karma for. I got to improve in the future. His walking path became covered in blood like a slaughterhouse. Can you imagine a slaughterhouse? So this is what happens when you are really energetic. You get your feet crack up and there's blood everywhere. So the walking path may be like sand or something like that. And when you walk in the sand and there's blood, you're kind of bleeding. So eventually the sand becomes covered in blood. So it becomes like a slaughterhouse. Then, while reflecting in private, he thought, I am one of the Buddha's energetic disciples, yet my mind isn't freed from the corruptions through letting go. But my family is wealthy. Why not I return to the lower life, enjoy wealth, and make merit? What do you reckon? Good idea? Should he do that or should he not do that? Maybe. You can see, sometimes we think at the time of the Buddha, everyone was arahants and they were really advanced and they knew exactly what was going. But here you can see someone wants to disrobe. Just like now, just like these days, people become monks, then they disrobe again, they become nuns, they disrobe, they stay for a while, then they think, oh yeah, actually, my family is quite wealthy, I can enjoy myself. Good point. And I can make merit, at least I get a good rebirth. It's always been like that. Nothing has really changed in the world. And so you think, when you don't make progress in the path, this is how you tend to think. Because the whole point of practicing the Dhamma as a monastic is to make progress. The moment you stop making progress, this is what happens. The moment you bleed too much, then there is an issue and there's a problem. So he thinks like this. So should I go to the lower life? Is interesting. The lay life is considered the lower life in the suttas. Hina means lower or lesser or inferior. And the reason, of course, is that the monastic life, when lived well and lived in the right way, is kind of the highway to awakening. That's the whole point. That's why the Buddha laid down the monastic life. So why not I go back to the ordinary life? And so this is can happen quite easily if you don't make progress and you bleed too much, then this kind of thing happens. Just then the Buddha read Sona's mind. Comes in very handy to have the Buddha around. And as a strong man might bend or stretch his arm, the Buddha disappeared from the vulture peak and appeared in Cool Grove. Yes, it's kind of so very easy. Just bend your arm, ding, and you reappear in Malacca. This is how the monks from Malacca will return to Malacca. They would just bend their arm, ding, and go to Malacca. So easy. So this is very easy to do this. So and Vulture Peak and Cool Grove were roughly in the same area. They were both in the Rajagaha area. Those of you who have been to India, you've been to Rajagaha. It's one of those really inspiring places. Going to the Vulture Peak, hanging out there. I always liked the Vulture Peak myself. By the way, do you know whose translation this is? Just marketing my own translation a little bit. Okay, let's carry on. Soon afterwards, as the Buddha and a number of monks were walking about the dwellings, they came to Sona's walking path. The Buddha looked at it and asked the monks, "Whose walking path is this? It's covered in blood like a slaughterhouse." They told him what had happened. Now, you will notice something very strange here. On the one hand, the Buddha is supposed to have disappeared in the Vulture Peak and appeared in the Cool Grove because he was reading his mind. On the other hand, he's walking about the dwellings and then he comes to the walking path. It's strange, right? It doesn't seem to make any sense. It seems to be one or the other, not both. They don't really work all that well together. Of course, the commentaries are going to tell you why they work together. They're going to find an explanation. But from a rational point of view, it seems like one is true and maybe one is not quite right. And this is what you often find in the suttas. Yeah? There are these little discrepancies like this. And here, I think the second explanation is more likely to be true, and the Buddha disappearing like a strong man bending the arm looks a bit like it is an addition there, which doesn't quite fit the context. I'm just letting you know how to kind of read these things, because when they look a bit funny. They told him what had happened, yeah, but the Buddha is supposed to already know what happened, so that's the problem. The Buddha then went up to Sona's dwelling and sat down on the prepared seat. Sona bowed and sat down, and the Buddha said to him, Sona, while reflecting in private, didn't you think, I'm one of the Buddha's energetic disciples, yet my mind isn't freed from the corruptions through letting go? But my family is wealthy. Why don't I return to the lower life, enjoy wealth, and make merit? Yes, sir. Well, let me ask you, Sona, when you were previously a householder, weren't you a skilled lute player? Yes. When the strings were too tight, was the lute in tune and easy to play? No, sir. When the strings were too loose, was the lute in tune and easy to play? No. But when the strings were neither too tight nor too loose, but set to a balanced tension, was the lute then in tune and easy to play? Yes, sir. Just so, Sona, too much energy leads to restlessness, and too little to laziness. So apply a balanced energy and bring about an evenness in the spiritual faculties. And that is where you should take up the meditation object. Yes, sir. Then, as a strong man might bend or stretch his arm, the Buddha disappeared from the presence of Sona in the cool grove and appeared on the vulture peak. Soon Sona applied a balanced energy and brought about an evenness in his spiritual faculties, which is where he took up his meditation object. He then stayed by himself, secluded, heedful, energetic, and diligent. In no long time, in this very life, he realized with his own insight the supreme goal of the spiritual life, for which gentlemen rightly go forth into homelessness. He understood that birth had come to an end, that the spiritual life had been fulfilled, that the job had been done, that there was no further existence, and Venerable Sona became one of the perfected ones, an arahant. It's a nice little story, isn't it? And it shows you how often we are quite close to awakening without really understanding it, and we're almost losing out. We're almost on the way to going backwards on the path, when actually it takes us a little bit of viewing things in a different way. And when we view things in a different way, then suddenly the path opens up to us again. So he has to apply a balanced energy. Energy should not be too strong nor too weak, otherwise you become restless or lazy. You have to find that evenness where your body and mind are kind of at ease. They're not restless. They're not kind of... you can feel that the energy is kind of nice. It doesn't have that tension to it or too much to it. Nor are you kind of, being lazy. You have enough energy. You do what you have to do. You come out when you have to come out, and you don't when you don't have to. And then you find that balance in the faculties. The balance where the faculties are just right. The right amount of energy, the right amount of samadhi, the right, you have wisdom and faith, all of these things kind of coming together. Each spiritual faculty has to be balanced with a reference to itself. It is not so much that it's possible to have too much energy. You can, If you have too much energy, then you reduce it a little bit, but what you really need to do then is to have more samadhi. And then the energy becomes right, because the energy that comes from samadhi is the right kind of energy. It's the mental energy, and that's what you want. So you have enormous energy in samadhi, but it is by definition a balanced kind of energy. So you reduce your ordinary energy a little bit, you improve the samadhi, and then you get this nice balance. And so then you get that evenness in the spiritual faculties. It does not mean, one of the things it does not mean, for example, you have too much faith, but not enough wisdom. That's sometimes what you hear. That does not mean you should reduce your faith. You cannot really have too much faith, but what you can have is the wrong kind of faith. Remember that the stream mentors, they have perfect faith. So if the wiser you are, actually the more faith you have, you cannot really have too much faith, but you have to have a wise kind of faith. So you need to increase your wisdom, and then the faith gets balanced in the right way. So it's important to understand these things in the right way, otherwise you might decrease some of these qualities. I got too much samadhi, I better reduce my samadhi. No, never reduce your samadhi. You can't have too much samadhi. Samadhi is the foundation for the awakening itself. So please carry on having samadhi. That's not how you balance it out. And this was a point that was made to me by Ajahn Brahm a long, long time ago. He said that this idea of balancing the spiritual faculties, as it is spoken about in the commentaries, is dangerous, because it may sound as if you should have to reduce one spiritual faculty, but it's never really about reducing them. It's about improving the other one, so you get an overall balance. And then when the spiritual faculties are really powerful, then you become secluded, you stay by yourself and you practice by yourself, and then eventually, in no long time, as it says in the suttas, in no long time, is that true? That's what it says here, in no long time. What does that mean? Like in a few days or few weeks? Short period of time? Like a few weeks maybe? Few months? Few years, few decades. I think what it means, it actually means in this very life. If it happens in this life, then it is in no short time. In no long time. If it happens not in this life, then it's a bit longer. Because then this is like a bit of a detour going via some other life. So usually in no long time means like 30 years. That's what it means. It says in the Suttas, and Venerable Anuruddha became an arahant in no long time. And the comrade said that's 30 years. It took 30 years to become an arahant. So that's the idea. So from a point of view of samsaric existence, it is short, right? It's really, really short. We've been doing this for so long, and so happy to kind of get out of this. So this is considered quickly. So this is the idea here. And he found that goal for which gentlemen rightly go forth, or gentlewomen, or whoever, gentle people, rightly go forth into homelessness. And that means, becoming an arahant means you have understood birth has come to an end. The spiritual life has been fulfilled. The job has been done. There is no further state of existence. And Venerable Sona became an arahant. So what do you do now? You become an arahant. Do you just chill, or what do you do next? It's a good question, isn't it? I don't know if you know what happens next, but we may have read the sutta, but it's one of those interesting things. What do you do once you become an arahant? I remember once there was a very famous monk who was part of Ajahn Chah's monastery. You may have heard of this monk, maybe not. And Ajahn Chah one day said, is there anyone here who doesn't have any more defilements? And apparently this monk raised his hand. Sir, I have no more defilements. Really? Okay, come to my kuti. So he came to Ajahn Chah's kuti, and so he sat down in his kuti, and then Ajahn Chah gave him the instruction. This is the instruction for the arahant. He had no more defilements. Okay, from now on, your job is to have metta. And this is kind of beautiful, because the idea is that if you are, I don't know if he really was an arahant or whatever, but the point is that if you haven't got anything more to do in your life, now your job is to be a teacher. And the way to be a teacher is to have metta for everyone, to have a sense of compassion for everyone. Go out into the world with that metta and compassion, and then teach them on that basis. That's kind of the job of the Arahant, just like the job of the Buddha after his awakening. Yeah, same kind of idea. So maybe this is what Venerable Sona does. Let's see what happens. He then thought, why don't I declare perfect insight to the Buddha? Yeah, so this is what Arahants also would do. They go to the Buddha and tell him, yeah, I've achieved perfect insight. So this is kind of interesting. How does an Arahant declare perfect insight? Do they say, I am an Arahant? Is that what they say? Or do they say something else? This is kind of interesting. It shows you how an Arahant thinks a little bit, and is a bit different from ordinary people. So he then went to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side and said, Sir, a monk who is an Arahant, who has ended the corruptions, fulfilled the spiritual life, done the job, put down the burden, realized the true goal, cut the bond to existence, gained release by right insight. So these are all the words that show you that you're an Arahant. All of these things refer to Arahantship in various ways. He is committed to 6 things. To renunciation, to seclusion, to harmlessness, the end of grasping, the end of craving, and to non-confusion. This is what the Arahant is committed to. It doesn't mean that the Arahant has to do it. It's a natural commitment of the Arahant's mind. Yeah, it's a natural commitment, natural adherence to these things. So renunciation here means giving up the 5 sense world. You're no longer interested in the 5 senses and the object. That's what renunciation means. Seclusion means, well, it means physical seclusion, but mostly it means mental seclusion. The mind being secluded from hindrances and the 5 hindrances, the 5 senses and all of that. You're not interested in those things anymore. To harmlessness, you don't want to harm any beings. In fact, you have the opposite. You have compassion for all beings. You understand the suffering of the world, and so you have this beautiful mind that is always compassionate and always looking out to help people, animals, ghosts, devas, whatever. Then you are committed to the end of grasping and craving. You're not going to go back there. You don't have any ownership anymore. This is one of the beautiful things about the Arahant. That's why it is said that they cannot live in the household life, because the household life means a life of ownership. You own the contents of the house or whatever. And so you have given up the fetter of the household life when you become an Arahant. No craving, no grasping. And then non-confusion. The Arahant has the clear mind, the non-confused mind. Asamoha. So this is what the Arahant is like. Yes, this is kind of a different angle on the Arahant from maybe what you normally see. So let's see what he says then. A venerable here might think, no doubt this venerable is committed to renunciation simply out of faith. But this would be the wrong way to look at it. The monk who has ended the corruptions, who has fulfilled the spiritual life and done the job, doesn't see anything to be done in himself, nor anything to be improved. He is committed to renunciation because of the ending of sensual desire, because he is without sensual desire. He is committed to renunciation because of the ending of ill will, because he is without ill will. He is committed to renunciation because of the ending of confusion, because he is without confusion. So it is the ending of the defilements that makes you committed to renunciation. It's a natural consequence of being an Arahant. It's not something that you do merely out of faith. So you can see the way he talks about his own attainment is very roundabout way. He's saying this is what he knows, this is the nature of the Arahant, and by declaring the nature of an Arahant, by declaring that he understands that, then of course the Buddha will know that he must be an Arahant for that reason. He doesn't refer to himself at all. He just says these are the qualities. A venerable here might think, no doubt this venerable is committed to seclusion because it desires material support, honor and praise. Sometimes if you have some dodgy desires, you think, oh yeah, if I go and live in seclusion, then people will give me support, yeah, because they feel inspired by people in seclusion. So if I live in this faraway cutie, then I will get all of this nice, whatever it is, yeah, nice coffee or whatever. And you enjoy that nice coffee because you live in seclusion. But this would be the wrong way to look at it. The monk who has ended the corruptions, who has fulfilled the spiritual life and done the job, doesn't see anything to be done in himself, nor anything that needs improving. Yeah. He is committed to seclusion because of the ending of sensual desire, ending of ill will, and the ending of confusion, because he is without all of these things. Because you don't have any of these defilements, you have no interest anymore in any of these material things, and you are prefer to be secluded, because happiness comes through seclusion for someone who is an arahant. You close your eyes, you watch the breath, and you go into jhana states. That's where the arahant gets their happiness from. A venerable here might think, no doubt this venerable is committed to non-harming, because he falls back on adhering to virtue and vows as the essence. But this would be the wrong way to look at it. Yeah, so you're committed to non-harming because you're holding on. Yeah, this is kind of the sila bhatta paramasa that you have here again. We talked about that before, whether it really means just misapprehension or whether it means holding on or adhering. Yeah. So you are just holding on to those things, and because you're holding on to them, then you are. That's why you do non-harming. And I think this is one case where misapprehension is, you can see it doesn't really work. The problem here is not misapprehension, because it is not a misapprehension. You're doing the right thing. It's just that you're holding on to it. Anyway, this was my argument. So, yeah, but that's not really why you are non-harming when arahant. The monk or nun who has ended the corruptions, who has fulfilled the spiritual life and done the job, doesn't see anything in themselves to be done, nor anything that needs improving. They are committed to harmlessness because of the ending of sensual desire, the ending of ill will, and the ending of confusion, because they are without all of these things. Yeah. You have the opposite qualities. You have the qualities of kindness and compassion instead. He is committed to the end of grasping, to the end of craving, and to non-confusion because of the ending of sensual desire, because he is without sensual desire. He is committed to the end of grasping, the end of craving, and to non-confusion because of the ending of ill will, because he is without ill will. You grasp things because of desires, and perhaps also ill will. You are committed to the end of grasping, to the end of craving, and to non-confusion because of the ending of confusion, because it's without confusion. That's moha. Sir, for a monk who is fully freed in this way, even if he sees compelling sights, his mind is not overpowered by them. It remains unaffected, steady and unshakable, and he observes its disappearance. So this is kind of extraordinary. Yeah, the mind of the arahant is never overpowered by what happens in the five senses. Your mind is always under control. Sati adipataya. Sati adipataya, controlled by mindfulness. Samadhi adipataya, under the control of samadhi. Panya adipataya, under the control of panya. Because your faculties are pure and powerful, you are in charge of your mind, and external things are not in charge of the mind. This is one of the beautiful qualities of going a long way on the spiritual path, is that you feel in control of your life. And so you are not overpowered. You remain unaffected, steady, unshakable, anenja. The mind is steady, is not moved by these things, and he observes its disappearance. Gradually the mind fades away. Yeah, the arahant, when it approaches death, etc., he observes the fading away of the mind, gradually the mind itself coming to an end. And this is kind of the highest happiness, really, for the arahant. Even if he hears compelling sounds, even if it smells compelling odors, even if it tastes compelling flavors, even if it touches compelling objects, even if he experiences compelling mental phenomena, his mind is not overpowered by them. It remains unaffected, steady and unshakable, and he observes its disappearance. Nothing can overpower you anymore. You are in control of your faculties. You are in control of your mind. You are even. You have upekkha. You're just observing things in the world. You are cool. You are siti bhutto. This is what the arahant is. It's just like a granite mountain, a single solid mass without cracks. It doesn't shake or tremble when a powerful rainstorm arrives from any direction. The mind of a monk who is fully freed is, in this way, is just like that. Solid granite mountain, a single solid mass of rock without cracks. So that is what this monk Sona says to the Buddha. And in other suttas you will see the Buddha, he will praise people who speak in this way. I can't remember what comes next. Let's maybe just go to the very end before I say things that are already there. For one committed to renunciation and to seclusion of the mind, for one committed to harmlessness and to the end of grasping, for one committed to the end of craving and to clarity of mind, having seen the arising of the senses, the mind is fully freed. Having seen the arising of the senses, this usually refers to the arising at rebirth. The senses coming into existence. You have seen that. You have seen it is problematic. You want to give it up. And you give it up, and so your mind is freed. For one who is fully freed, the monastic with a peaceful mind, there is nothing to improve and nothing to be done. Just as a single solid rock is unshaken by the wind, so too all sights and sounds, smells, tastes and touches, and mental objects, good or bad, cannot move that kind of person. Their mind is free and steady, and they observe it as it disappears. So there you are. So that is the Sona Sutta. And this is the way, the Buddha will often say, this is the way the Arahants declare the attainment of Arahantship. They declare it through some inspiring verses and inspiring things. It's okay? All right. So, so I was saying that this is how the Arahants declare the final knowledge. They don't really say anything about me or I have achieved. They just declare the qualities of an Arahant, and then you have to kind of understand it from that. That's the idea. So let's have another quick break, and then we carry on afterwards.
Ajahn, I think this question is a bit tangential. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the meaning of Sona is dog, right?
Yeah,
and you see from this, his family is from a wealthy family. So I was wondering, why would a parent from wealthy family wants to name their son dog? And then you see another instance where Sigalaka, another parent named his son Jackal. So I was wondering if this is a practice of Indian in the past, but because Chinese parents in the past, they used to name their children like dog or pig.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
it's to make it unappealing, so that the evil spirits will find it unappealing, spare their child, spare their child. I'm not sure whether the Indian context they have similar practice.
It's a good question. I don't know. I haven't heard about that, so I'm not sure. You know, a word like Sona is quite a common word, and I wonder whether it may have many different meanings. So dog may only be one meaning. It may also have other meanings. So it may not be as straightforward as you think. Jackal, but I guess jackal, is that negative or positive? I guess it depends on how you view these animals. Dogs usually have a bad name, especially in India, so that would probably not usually be good. Jackal, can that be good? Probably not. And I guess jackals are not kind of the ideal animal. But if you call your son lion, yeah, that would be kind of nice, yeah? That might be good. Or dragon or something like that. Something positive. So yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. So I don't know if that was a common thing in ancient India. You give your children names so that the ghost will stay away. I don't know. I know in Thailand apparently they used to do that. And some of the... Ajahn Brahm tells the stories that some of the names that the villagers would give their children were just astonishing. You couldn't believe that. I'm not going to even say those names because they're so rude. So they would be really over the top. Yeah. Anyways, no answer to that one, unfortunately. A very important question, obviously, but I don't have an answer to it. So, yes.